This is where the winter solstice, it's amazing to see that here. And then again, if you remember what Grandma told you, there is the mesa where we got the water. Grandma grew up there, and that direction west is Chaco Canyon, and it's 35 miles that way. So I will try to drop by the old Hogan and show you. Look how desert it is. Look at this. And yet in Chaco Canyon, these medicine men were drawing where they had come from. The lion, the elephant. Where do you see lion and elephants out here? Gee whiz, I wonder where they are. And where would you see a boat? But far in the east, way in the east, that's where our ancestors came from. I testify to you that I know what I say is true. And I honor my grandfather. He taught me truth. He taught me correct principles. And this is what I'm sharing. And this is my life. This is where I lived to the age of 10. To me, that's like so sacred. When I return, I'm glad to share this with you. I love you all. Thank you for coming home with me. That is home. This is where my grandfather built his wooden house. It was facing the east, and it was a 2-room building. Now here, along here, now don't even ask me where, because I'm trying to remember. My grandfather built a hogan here, and it was pretty big because it was about around here. Now notice all the sagebrush has been here, and I used to walk across the coffee. We weren't allowed to drink coffee. We only drank tea. My father's instruction. We'd go from the hogan here. I would carry the coffee that was made and go back and forth. And along here was where the hogan was, and we had a tache right here. It was a big, huge one. If you look over there, there was a hogan. It fell in, but that's another building that was built by my grandfather. And over there was another one house where Grandpa built. And so then there was a horse corral over here, huge one. And then we went sheep herding all along here. And this is home to me. And you know, you would look at all the shrubbery, there would be cicadas, and I would pick them and we would roast them, and they were so, you know, in my life, they were so delicious. And then along here, over here, that's where the sheep corral was, and again there was also a horse corral there once, and that's where my grandmother used to feed the little sheep and the little goats. That didn't, you know, whenever we'd go out here and the mother would freeze, or you know, after nursing her babies, she would you know, just get something and it would kill her, and then she would we would bring the babies home, and it was sad, but we had lots of little babies. Also, I will tell you the parable of the sheep and the goats, the little baby goats. It's a parable that has stayed with me. I call it a parable because my Bizhi taught it to me, because she referenced me as being a little sheep, And because my mother was gone, my father was gone. But she always reassured me that I would always have someone to care and love me, which was so beautiful. So here, if you look that direction, that's a Pueblo Pintado school. There's a water thing there. And when my grandfather would come home at the chapter meeting, the chapter house is over there. And I just finished, we had a chapter meeting. And I would see him, and I could see him ride his horse, our, Chogo, our Palomino. And I would run through this place. And Grandma used to always yell at me. See, look at this. There were stickers all over. I ran through all of this kind of stuff. I was barefooted. It was just the way I was. I loved life. There were chickens. We had chickens and roosters. Oh, the old type that were so beautiful. So I know this doesn't mean anything to you, but this is how you get to know Grandma, Navajo Grandma. This is how I grew up. I mean, see the old tires and here's some part of the building, the foundation where Grandpa's house was, and he built this. If you know, again, you look at the rocks and see, this is the buildings, the Dene. It wasn't the Pueblos who built the Chaco Canyon. My grandfather and his grandparents, they all used the rocks. And when they took this down, and they took a lot of the rocks to build across the way. There's the winter camp. And that's where a lot of the stones that Grandpa used. See all of this? That's what was used for buildings. And see, there's some more rocks. I don't know what kind of rocks they are called. But I sometimes go through here and I have to be careful. I don't know if there's snakes around here. See the foundation? This is how Chaco was built. This was the buildings that the Navajo, the men, my paternal line, built. See, look at this. And that was the type of foundation that was used. It wasn't, and yeah, we had the dirt, we had the dirt. And that's where I would run from here, see Grandpa. And I would run all the way. And Grandpa would pick me up over there in the Palomino horse, hoist me behind him, and it was like heaven. I loved my grandfather, and he would bring me home, and it was heaven just to be with him. Now I want you to see something. When in the morning, I told you, prayer was our every breath. We would go from the Hogan across here, right here. Grandpa, me, and my Bizhi, my Nali, my Bizhi and I would stand here. And the dawn would come, and the sun, and Grandpa would stand there and pray with his corn pollen, his white corn. And I would stand right behind him, or with him, with Grandma, be with him. And he would pray and bless us and for protection. And this is our place. This is how I was raised. And this is where we were. This is my home. This is my life. It is nothing like yours. But that's the dawn. That's where the sun came up. And we greeted the day every day. Sometimes I walk along here and I see, oh, you have no idea. They used to have lard, not shortening, but lard in buckets. And if you can tell, see, look at this. Who knows what was in here? Sometimes I just like to hold the handle to think, I wonder if Grandma or Grandpa, who held this, it's so emotional to me, but that's what I think. But I just lay them back down because it's something so precious. And here's a vix. Here's a vix. I know this glass melted, but that was part of some of the stuff they came up with, and people said that it had that eucalyptus. Here's a part of the, the middle, the fire, what is it called? Anyways, a part of just the fireplace. There's so much. So you've seen my life now. You wonder why I grew up in the desert, and there was all kinds of herbs and all along here. And then the ranchers brought their horse. They brought their cattle, and you couldn't even find any more of the herbs. I used to be able to walk out here and find herbs with Grandma, and we would eat it. We would bring it home. My grandfather, I'll share his voice with you, where he basically wept. He said all of the things we used to eat and forage is gone because the Cattlemen's Association decided to take our lands and build fences, and life was gone. Everybody, all of a sudden again, was full of greed, power, and control, which here in this land, to Native Americans, this is not ours to sell. This was the land that was given by the Creator. This is where I learned. I learned where my Creator was. If you look up and look at all the beautiful clouds, and you wonder why I grew up like this. I'm sorry. This is my life. This is my formative years. And I learned to love God. I learned to know who Christ was. And Chaco Canyon is that way. To take a wagon. And this is where I learned. I learned who God and Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit was. And I treasure this. This is you coming with me to where I grew up. There is another place, another area. We had another, there's some two other places. Grandpa has the winter, it's out there in the mountains, kind of like the cliffs. And but this was home to me. I wasn't familiar with those other places. And this is where just life began for me. And I treasure it. It's desert to you. But this is where I say my umbilical cord is buried. Thank you for watching. Now you know Grandma. And this is where we had our wagons, and the wagons were all there and here. This is the road, if you could look at it. These were wagon trails. Now they're regular roads. But it's incredible. There's some big snakes over there. They look like pythons. And when I was in that one place, I told you when I ate the raisins and stuff, Grandpa said when he went there, there were pythons in there. They're not pythons, but they were bigger than pythons, he said. And he was so thankful that I didn't go in the dark area because I only stayed in the lighted area from when I came down off the ladder. And it was in it was in a place in the ground. And there was that's where the I don't know, I guess our ancestors were laid there. But I just want you to see this. This is my life. This is my home. This is where I grew up. This circle right here. Jemez Pueblo is that way. Cabazon is over there where Grandpa learned his oral history. And my maternal line is this way. If you see that little dip over there, see, when my grandfather and the Dene people, after Kit Carson got gathered everybody, they took them across way down through Gallup area. But this is where, in Chaco, they took all the Navajos, including my great-great-grandfather, and then my maternal grandfather, who was Delgadito. They took them and they herded them through here, this way, and through that. See if you see that dip in the mesa? That's the canyon. Actually, no, sorry. See where there's a water thing here. Right straight across, like you can see. And there's a canyon, and it went right through that canyon. And that's where they went, and then went southwest, and then they turned and went through and over the Continental Divide, which is way very southeast this way, and we ended up in, Grandpa called it Tosito, Blue Water, and carried on, and they walked to Vasco Dondo. So a lot of history here. I love you. Thank you. I know you don't know what the hay ball I'm talking about, but this is me. This is Grandma. I love this place. And here is my pioneer ancestry, my Navajo pioneer ancestry. Thank you for sharing. I love you so. I love this land. God lives. Christ came here, over there, to Chaco. And we have this Holy Spirit to guide and direct us. And He is always there. Ask Him anything you wish, and He will reveal the truth of it to you. I love you. And you can't see the Tseretro from here. It's way back there, the water. This is my life. Hakone, love you. This is now